the ethnographic gaze applied to CoolWine. Because of climate change and increasing temperatures in the European wine-producing regions, the alcohol content in commercial wines has increased by almost 1% every decade since the 1980s, with a total increase of around 3 degrees. This trend is common to all types of wine and all regions. Warmer temperatures have different effects on the physiological processes involved. Therefore, impact on technological maturity, that's to say sugar accumulation, is greater than on phenolic and aromatic ripeness, and this produces an imbalance. The CoolWine project aims to develop starters free of genetically modified organisms that can reduce the yield of ethanol during wine fermentation. The wines will not be light, alcohol-free products, but conventional wines that do not have the drawbacks of excess alcohol. The target is to reduce alcohol content by 3 to 4 degrees. CoolWine Consortium. 4 countries are involved in the project, with partners from different universities, research groups, and the wine-producing sector in Spain. CoolWine. The objectives of Work Package 6. We used an ethnographic approach to analyse the social issues involved in the project. We identified the stakeholders. We recognised the potential impact that CoolWine could have on their lives. We found ways to optimise the positive aspects and minimise the negative ones. And finally, we identified criteria for making potential CoolWine products acceptable. Social impact assessment in CoolWine. Step 1. Learning the bio-language. Anthropologists lost in translation. As social anthropologists, we had to rise to the challenge of placing the other not in an exotic, distant culture, but in our own context. At first, this geographically close, but culturally distant exotic other was the group of bioresearchers from the project. Methodologically, this meant that we needed to be able to understand their language, interpret their way of proceeding, and translate their meanings to our own field. Step 2. Entering the field. Designing guidelines and identifying stakeholders from observation unit. The fieldwork was conducted in 2 observation units, that's to say geographical areas, in Spain. We used ethnographic techniques to transfer emic perceptions, that's to say concepts and beliefs from the specialist bio point of view, to our own socio-anthropological field. We entered the field naturally, gradually, and non-intrusively. To define categories of stakeholders, we considered all the actors involved in the winemaking cycle. Although our intention was to make the categories heterogeneous, they were not mutually exclusive, since producers can also be wine experts, as can some consumers. Step 3. Collecting qualitative data. To attain our objectives, we used techniques from the classic ethnographic toolbox. We conducted 15 semi-structured interviews and led 7 focus groups. Before each focus group, we asked participants to answer this question. When one says wine, what comes to your mind? They wrote their answers down on some paper. These free lists helped us determine and identify cultural wine domains in the 2 observation units, Logroño and Tarragona. We also organised participant observation at a wine shop in Tarragona to observe what criteria clients used to choose a bottle of wine. Lastly, we engaged in participant observation at a wine tasting that included an experimental wine from CoolWine. All the participants in the wine tasting were asked to fill in a questionnaire. Step 4. Cultural analysis of wine and the innovation pipeline. Our analysis is based on transcription and discourse analysis, first in isolation by analysing individual categories and then by comparing stakeholders. The analysis focuses on 4 broad categories. The first, ideas on wine, is the most generic category and includes wine regulation, what people understand about wine culture, the characteristics of a good wine, and the criteria people used for choosing a wine. The second, the CoolWine initiative, addressed opinions on CoolWine, the environmental impact of the initiative, potential uses of CoolWine yeasts, perceptions about the selection of yeasts in the laboratory, information for consumers, sales arguments, and alternative to reducing the alcohol content. The third category, wine market trends, addressed market demands and different consumer profiles. And the fourth and final category, prevention, dealt with the risks of consuming alcohol.